Welcome, everybody. This is a solo podcast where I'm just going to stumble through a few thoughts of mine, mostly inspired by my recent visit to Sydney and Canberra. Canberra as a city, the capital city of Australia, set up like super well for school tours. Like every place has got a tour guide who kind of takes the kids through the place. And so I, as a 35-year-old teacher, got to go through a lot of that and got like super educated. I learned like heaps of cool things with the children as well. One of the things that I was actually really excited to learn was that South Australia was the second ever place in the whole world to allow women to vote. I didn't know that, and I thought that was really cool. It kind of made me proud to be an Australian in some ways. And if you know what the first place is, extra bonus points to you. Let me know maybe in a comment or something, and you can win my respect. But learning it was kind of a reminder to me of how progressive Australia is as a Western culture. Like I get these like pangs every now and then because I kind of forget a lot of the time. I think I exist in a bit of a bubble of church and I guess religious people who aren't probably like there's a selective pressure of people who probably aren't very progressive there. So that's probably most of the people I interact with, and no normative statements about that, just fully descriptive ones. So it's interesting to kind of find that every now and then. I wanted to have a bit of a dive into the similarities that I see in thinking about this like feminism kind of thing or progressive voice around people who would call themselves feminists versus people who are a bit more conservative who wouldn't, I guess, call themselves feminists. And I do think that the word feminism does make people kind of lose their minds a little bit when you say it. There's a lot of association with certain words these days, and they kind of lose their original meaning a lot of the time, which is kind of how language works and evolves. But I think the word feminism is probably apt for this discussion anyway. A lot of the issues that people who are a bit more conservative would put forward are probably how society can demonize men for no reason other than the fact that they're just men. Some things that are pointed out would be that there's like higher suicide rates for men compared to women, that it's quite hard for men to be emotional, and that there's stigma associated with that. These are like obviously true things for the most part and not good things. And my explanation, I guess, for a lot of why men are left feeling like this is that we as a society did heaps of really good work in uplifting minorities. That would be women and other like racial minorities in the world. And men kind of felt like they're a bit left behind by that. I talked about this with a whole cohort of students last term that I teach, or maybe it was term one, but anyway, I had all of the boys there because all of the girls were at a like event for, what do you call it? Like International Women's Day event. And I had all of the guys there, and I was just asking them like how they feel. They're not at an event. Is there an International Men's Day? And I actually didn't even know if there was an Australian International Men's Day. It'd be interesting to should probably have looked that up, but none of them knew if there was. And the answers were really cool, like for how they were feeling. They range from things like, it's really unfair, I think, or my dad thinks that Anthony Albanese is super sexist, so that's why there's a International Women's Day and not a Men's Day. And then some of them would say like, well, do we really need one? I mean, every other day is kind of like International Men's Day, which is, I guess, like he was joking, but kind of hilariously true on some levels. And I thought that the like tension to hold there was interesting. On one hand, you have the lived experience of every young male in the world saying, or a lot of young males in the world saying, why do I deserve to be treated poorly because of my birth gender? And on the other hand, you can kind of talk about how we need to help groups of people who need help. I kind of resonate with both of those feelings, I guess, sometimes. And I think it's a good learning experience maybe for me to feel hard done by something I can't control, because it's not really a fair experience. I think I noticed this. I played a lot of games as a young person growing up, a lot of online computer games. I still do actually play a huge amount of online games. And I like interacting with my friends. I like interacting with randoms online. I don't really play like solo story games because it's a lot about the interaction for me. I find it like a form of meditation, just zoning out, playing a game. It's usually Rainbow Six Siege, bit of Rocket League, bit of Dota, all good fun games. And it's quite rare to play with females in that space. And I think that I noticed early on, many years ago, when maybe more women were breaking into the space a little bit, they were super abused. And a lot of people, I mean, it's quite an abusive space, online gaming. So a lot of people would say, yeah, like I get abused as well if my game plays bad or whatever. But this abuse was a little bit different. So it's an interestingly toxic place to be online sometimes. But if I'm playing poorly, people have got to criticize that, and they will abuse something. They've got to be a little bit creative. But I noticed that if women were in the lobby at all, or just even talking, and people identified, oh, there's a girl playing this game with us, they just have these like loaded up go-to comments. What are you doing here? Get back in the kitchen. What are you so cranky for? You're on your period. Women shouldn't be playing games anyway, blah, blah, blah. And I guess as a guy, and as a white guy for that matter, I don't ever really have to wonder if I belong somewhere, or if I belong in a place, just because of something about me that I can't change. And that's an experience that I've never really had to go through. And I felt like that was what experience was being projected onto these women in this space. So, kind of round a lot of this out, I guess. Feminism, like definitionally, is the advocacy for equality of the sexes. And I guess when one of those sexes has been trodden on for quite a while, maybe to reach equality, we need to do a bit of, or we need to be a bit extra sensitive, be a bit more gracious, more favorable for a period of time, not as a punishment like to men, but as an endeavor to reach that parity. I think it's important to clarify that it's not as a punishment because people feel like it is, because they haven't necessarily, like I said before, been the young people who've done anything in that sense. Unfortunately, in churches, which again is kind of a huge part of my formative years and my personal context, there's an even bigger problem with sexism or equality of gender, in my opinion. There is passages in the Bible that are relatively anti-women, telling them to cover their heads, not to speak in church, to submit to husbands. There's probably a lot of context around why they're there, and a lot of different thoughts that people will have around why that was written thousands of years ago. But even more grating for me is the term that people often use, we're equal, but we have different roles. And I actually do totally understand that there are differences, shock horror, between men and women, right? I feel like I don't need to name them, but that phrase is weaponized to say it's not a woman's role to preach in front of people. It's not a wife's role to lead the household or to make decisions in the household. And that's the grating thing for me. I think that the crazy thing is, if you're a person who believes that Jesus rose from the dead and then he appeared to people after that, as biblically stated, then you would believe that he appeared first to Mary of Magdalene and he told her, go and tell people what happened here. This is kind of potentially the most important piece of information in the world at that time. And it's what the Christian faith hinges on. It's so important, Jesus rising from the dead. And he doesn't say, yo, Mary, go like find one of the men disciples, like go get a man. So then people will respect what you say. He actually actively flips the script and says to hell with these different roles rubbish. You, a woman, go preach the most important thing that has ever been done. So is it Christian to be anti-feminist? I don't know. Maybe. It might even be a little biblical depending on how you view it. But is it Christ-like? Certainly not.